Introduction. What is procrastination? Everyone procrastinates. It's a universal temptation. Even productivity and time management experts, who are supposed to know better, regularly postpone taking action on things that require their attention. We're constantly enticed to put things off to pursue more appealing options. For example, we persuade ourselves to forego our daily visit to the gym, choosing instead to remain on the couch binge-watching our favorite Netflix shows. We ignore our lawns, which desperately need to be mowed, in favor of going to the theater to catch the latest blockbuster film. We choose to go out with our friends rather than study for an upcoming exam. The question is, how can we lessen this tendency? Ultimately, how can we reduce its impact on our lives? We can't eliminate it since our inclination to procrastinate is part of our nature. We tend to pursue what is easiest and most likely to deliver immediate gratification, even if doing so is inconsistent with our long-term goals. The Procrastination Cure will give you the tools you need to overcome this inclination. Before we go any further, however, it's important to understand what procrastination is, and by extension what it is not. Procrastination defined. Procrastination has traditionally been defined as postponing taking action on something in favor of doing something else. In this context, doing something else can mean doing nothing at all, but this definition is insufficient. It fails to recognize circumstances in which putting things off is sensible and pragmatic. For example, suppose you need to visit the grocery store, but it's Saturday afternoon and you know the store is likely to be swamped with customers. Unless you're in desperate need of something, it makes sense to postpone your visit until Monday afternoon. The store will be less crowded. Is this an example of procrastination? In my opinion, defining it as such is overly simplistic. In truth, it's an example of practical time management. So what constitutes true, life-impairing procrastination? Most of us grew up thinking it was the act of putting something off, and thus associate the habit with laziness. But as we saw in our grocery store example, laziness isn't the only reason to postpone a task. For the purpose of this book, we'll define procrastination as the act of deferring action on something when taking earlier action would arguably have been a better decision. For example, visiting the gym instead of binge-watching Netflix, mowing the lawn instead of going to the movies, studying for an upcoming exam instead of going out with friends. The Procrastination Cure will show you how to make better decisions between competing tasks and opportunities, and thereby increase your productivity and better manage your time. Long-term goals versus instant gratification. As you'll see in Part I, Why We Procrastinate, there are numerous triggers for the procrastination habit. But the overarching reason we put things off is because something else promises to be more gratifying within a shorter time frame. In short, we prefer doing things that deliver immediate gratification, even if we value the future benefits associated with addressing more important tasks. We prefer present rewards to future rewards. This is the case even if the latter are greater in scope. For example, we purchase a new car knowing we should instead put the money into a retirement fund. We hang out with friends knowing we should instead study for an exam. We watch our favorite TV shows knowing we should instead go to the gym. There's no way to short-circuit this preference for present rewards over future rewards. This preference is part of our nature, but we can use this knowledge to train ourselves to overcome our tendency to procrastinate. The trick is to make the benefits of taking action more immediate. One way to do this is through a strategy called temptation bundling, which we'll explore in detail in Part 2. 21 Ways to Beat Your Inner Procrastinator. The Curious Effect of Taking Action. The biggest challenge in working on a task you consider to be boring, difficult, or unappealing is starting on it. But a strange thing happens once you start. The anxiety and dread associated with it rapidly declines. Think about the last time you postponed an unappealing task. The task probably nagged at you. Worse, the discomfort you felt probably grew the longer you postponed taking action. What happened when you finally started working on the dreaded task? The discomfort and anxiety you felt, much of it stemming from the guilt of procrastinating, likely dissipated. Moreover, once you started working on it, you probably found it easy to continue doing so. Here's a personal example. I write for a living, but I don't always look forward to it. Writing a book, or even a comprehensive blog post, entails a lot of work. So, yes, I've been known to procrastinate, but I've found that once I write the first 100 words, that's less than half a page, it's much easier to press onward and write the next 1,000, 2,000, or even 5,000 words. Taking action causes the discomfort and guilt associated with procrastination to evaporate. It also erases the stress and worry of doing the task. And just as importantly, it gives us the momentum we need to continue working until the task has been completed. In the next section, I'll describe how procrastination negatively affected my life, and what happened when I finally overcame it. My hope is that you'll relate to the challenges I describe, and be inspired to make a positive change in your own life. My life is a chronic procrastinator. My past is as close to a perfect case study in procrastination as you're likely to find. I was an extreme case. I practically earned a doctorate in the subject from the School of Hard Knocks. Don't take my word for it. Judge for yourself. Here's a snapshot of my life many years ago. I would send in my car registration late each year, resulting in fines. Why? Because writing a check and putting a stamp on an envelope was apparently too much trouble for me. More than once, because my license plate lacked the appropriate registration sticker from the California Department of Motor Vehicles. I'd discover that my car had been towed. Worse, there were times when I'd receive my new registration card and sticker from the DMV, and let both sit in my office for months on end. Remember, I was a chronic procrastinator. I apparently couldn't be bothered with actually putting the sticker on my license plate. The result: more fines and towing charges. This tendency to postpone things, important things, extended into every area of my life. I paid my car insurance bills late. I waited until I had no clean clothes before desperately doing a load of laundry. I postponed ending relationships, allowing them to drag on long after it was clear they were terminal. In college, I postponed studying for tests. I waited until the last minute before working on class assignments. My friends knew that it practically took an act of Congress to get me to return their phone calls. After college, I entered corporate America and continued the same shenanigans. I postponed working on important projects. I waited until the last possible moment before turning in reports to my boss. I'd skip meetings, not because of a conscious decision to do so, but because I deferred the decision until the meetings had already started. At that point, I'd simply disregard them. The fact that my career progressed in spite of such foolishness baffles me, and probably doesn't speak well of corporate America. I eventually left the corporate world and ventured out on my own. But I hadn't kicked my procrastination habit, and was thus continually plagued by it. For example, I delayed creating new products for my customers and clients. I put off tracking my advertising expenses. I deferred researching new opportunities. The result: my business suffered greatly for it. What happened after I turned things around? I eventually overcame my tendency to procrastinate. The effect has been nothing short of life-changing. I experienced less anxiety and guilt. These feelings were replaced with confidence and purpose. I finally felt in control of my life. By taking action more regularly, I was able to create more products, better manage my time, and improve my relationships. My productivity skyrocketed. I not only completed more work in less time, but I completed important work, the type that moved the needle with respect to my long-term goals. Today, I still put things off on occasion. My inner procrastinator still manages to rear its head now and again, but I've learned to control him, and that has made a remarkable difference in my life. In the next section, we'll talk about the price you're paying for procrastination in your personal life as well as your professional life. The personal and professional price of procrastination. It's safe to say you're interested in managing your time more effectively and increasing your productivity. That's the reason you're reading this book. To those ends, you know intuitively that every decision you make regarding how you spend your time imposes a cost. For example, let's say you have two activities to choose from, Activity A and Activity B. You can't do both. You must choose one over the other. In this scenario, one activity becomes the opportunity cost of the other. If you choose Activity A, you must forego doing Activity B. Choose B, and you won't be able to do it. Therein lies the reason it's important to identify tasks and activities that complement your goals. You lack the time to do everything. Consider this principle in the context of procrastination. Each time we procrastinate, we choose one activity over another. The problem is, the items we postpone never go away. They linger, demanding more and more attention as time passes. For example, your lawn will continue to grow until you mow it. Next week's exam, one for which you're unprepared, won't miraculously be canceled. The bathrooms in your home aren't going to clean themselves. These tasks must be addressed at some point. The longer you postpone them, the more urgent they become. The price you pay for procrastination is not always immediate. The true cost becomes apparent via a ripple effect that expands the more you put things off. This ripple effect eventually impacts both your personal and professional lives. The cost of procrastination on your personal life. Putting things off can negatively affect your personal life in 4 distinct areas: your relationships, your finances, your health. Missed opportunities. Following are some examples of each. Your relationships. Suppose you and your spouse have had a major disagreement that has left unresolved issues. You know these issues can only be settled by having a serious and likely difficult conversation. Postponing this conversation will only result in increasing resentment and emotional distance. Or suppose you delay getting back to friends regarding an upcoming get-together. Doing so may result in your missing the chance to spend quality time with them. Or suppose you postpone buying tickets to an upcoming sporting event for you and your kids. The event sells out, causing considerable disappointment for your family. Your finances. Suppose you delay paying your credit cards. If you end up paying them late, you'll be charged late fines. You'll also put your credit status at risk. Suppose you put off filing your taxes until the last possible moment. Then, an emergency prevents you from filing them on time. You'll be on the hook for late fees and failure to pay penalties. You might even trigger an audit. Suppose you procrastinate making investment decisions. Doing so could result in huge losses if your current investments are on the wrong side of the market. Suppose you delay setting money aside for your retirement. At age 65, you might find yourself without the funds you need to retire in comfort. Your health. Procrastination can even become a health risk. For example, suppose you put off visiting the doctor when you feel ill. If you're lucky, your body's immune system will take care of the problem on its own. On the other hand, the sick feeling might stem from a serious affliction that requires prompt medical attention. Putting off a visit to your doctor can have disastrous consequences. Suppose you put off exercising. You tell yourself that you'll start a daily workout regimen soon, but refuse to make a commitment. The months pass without your taking action, setting the stage for atrophied muscles, increased body fat, and even cardiac decline. Suppose you're in your 42nd and delay scheduling a colonoscopy. You risk allowing colorectal cancer, which grows slowly and can be treated successfully if detected early, to spread. Suppose you defer taking action on everything to the point that you're under constant pressure as things come due and work piles up. The stress can negatively affect your body, mind, and behavior. Missed opportunities. We miss opportunities every day thanks to our tendency to procrastinate. For example, recall the last time you put off making a reservation at a trendy restaurant only to discover you had waited too long. Have you ever waited to purchase airline tickets only to learn the prices had significantly increased? Or worse, all the flights were full, and you were forced to wait on standby, hoping someone would cancel at the last minute. Suppose you delay booking a room at your favorite hotel for an upcoming vacation. You figure that you have plenty of time to do so, but find to your dismay that the hotel is now booked at full capacity. Suppose your home needs a new roof. A reputable contractor extends an attractive discount based on his business being slow at the time. But you postpone taking action, and later find that the contractor is booked and the discount is no longer available. The cost of procrastination on your professional life. Delaying taking action can also hurt your professional life in numerous ways. For example, suppose you learn of a promising job position that you're perfectly suited for, but you wait too long to send in your resume. Consequently, the position is filled before you have an opportunity to interview for it. Suppose you're in sales. You delay following up on leads, figuring you can contact them tomorrow or the following day with no ill effect. But your leads cool off quickly, becoming less receptive to your overtures. Or worse, when they don't hear from you, they give their business to your competition. That translates into fewer sales and decreased commissions. It might even dash your chances for a promotion. Suppose you're responsible for creating a number of important reports for your boss. You regularly procrastinate on them, forcing you to scramble at the last minute. This habit can result in your delivering the reports late or passing along bad data stemming from avoidable errors. Neither scenario is likely to reflect well on your quarterly performance reviews. Ultimately, procrastination is evident in our daily work habits. These habits dictate our productivity. The more we put things off, the less productive we become. Worse, it becomes increasingly difficult to manage our time effectively as the postponed tasks, along with their respective deadlines, pile up. The above examples illustrate that the cost of procrastination can be much greater than is immediately apparent. The habit produces a ripple effect that can significantly impact our personal and professional lives. You now know what's at stake. In the next section, we'll cover what you can expect to learn in the procrastination cure. What you'll learn in the procrastination cure. There are 3 distinct parts to the procrastination cure. As with my other books, I've organized the material with a specific purpose in mind. I urge you to read the book from beginning to end the first time, particularly if you're familiar with some of the material. Why? Because much of what we'll cover in Part 2 builds on the material in Part I likewise. The advice you'll find in Part 3 builds on the advice you'll find in Part 2. Reading from beginning to end ensures you benefit fully from every section. Keep in mind that procrastination is a difficult habit to break. As with any habit, the longer you allow it to persist, the more deeply rooted it becomes. So if you've been a lifelong procrastinator, breaking the habit may take weeks, or even months. Given this, after you've read the procrastination cure in its entirety, and applied every tactic described in Part 2, revisit sections on an as-needed basis. I've organized the material to make doing so easy. Simply look through the expanded table of contents to find the section you want to reread at any given time. With that out of the way, let's take a quick tour through each of the 3 sections in the procrastination cure. Part I. Resolving a problem requires knowing why the problem occurs. Part I. Why we procrastinate explores this issue in detail. We'll discuss the most common reasons we procrastinate, some of which you're certain to recognize as personal triggers. As you read Part I, realize you're not alone. I personally relate to several of the reasons highlighted in this section of the procrastination cure. I'll reveal which ones along the way, and explain how and why they affect me. My goal is to help you to overcome them. Part 2. This is the main section of the book. Although it moves quickly, it's comprehensive. In Part 2, 21 Ways to Beat Your Inner Procrastinator. You'll learn nearly 24 proven tactics for curbing your procrastination habit. We'll discuss each one individually and explore why they work. Keep in mind, none of these strategies are meant to be applied exclusive of the others. You'll see the best results when you apply all of them together. Part 3. Procrastination isn't always bad. In fact, it's sometimes practical. To that end, there are times when it makes sense to embrace it rather than avoid it. Part 3. When procrastination helps you to get things done, we'll explore the controversial idea of active procrastination. We'll talk about how it can improve your focus, allow you to better allocate your time, and under the right circumstances help you to get more things done. Bonus material. You may have questions related to overcoming procrastination after you've finished reading this book. I've added a bonus section to the Procrastination Cure to address the most common questions I've been asked about this topic. Some of these questions are tangentially related to material covered in Parts I, II, and III, but they introduce unique circumstances that warrant attention. Taking the first step of the rest of your life. We have a lot to cover in the following pages, but I promise we'll move quickly. That way, you'll be able to apply the advice as soon as possible and see measurable results. If you're a chronic procrastinator, you'll undoubtedly recognize the negative effects the habit is having on your life. I urge you to make a commitment to conquering it. You'll find that once you curb the tendency to put things off and train yourself to consistently take action, you'll feel in much greater control of your life. In the next section, I'll show you how to get maximum value from the Procrastination Cure.